Okay, today we continue to the new lesson 10, focus on web technology. Okay, you are going to study on servlet first, because Java Web we start from servlet. Servlet just like a controller. If you used to work with other technology, we call it a controller. A servlet is the one that receive the request from client side, and also the one that going to generate HTML content. So it will handle request, response, session, and many other things. So just like you use Express.js, Express.js, it will handle get, post, and servlet is the same, but it's use other technology. It's in Java technology. So servlet is just like Express.js, but it's a bit more complicated than Express.js. So servlet technology is for web, and the code is on the server side. It's used for generating the dynamic web page. And servlet is the next replacement of the CGI, Common Gateway Interface. That is very old one. So servlet is faster and better performance for if we compare with CGI. It has many interface and classes to work with the request from the client side. So servlet is used for web. So it has a servlet API that has some built-in class in interface to help us to start quickly. So servlet will receive incoming requests and also respond back as HTML or JSON format. It depends on what you want. Like API, we respond as JSON. If it is a web application, maybe we generate as HTML content. Oh, okay. So, I change the presentation because PDF it does not have animation, so I will show it here as animation. So it is the command flow of the servlet. And normally we have client. Client using the browser. Browser can be any browser like Chrome, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Opera. There's a lot of browser, or maybe a mobile browser access to the server. So the server here is a web server. So servlet is here. Servlet is in the server, and normally it has an address. So it start from, for example, example.com, something like that, has some port like 8080, and start the request by browsing this address. So after browsing the address, the servlet will receive, but it based on here the path of the URL. Commonly, the default servlet will be the one who selected this request, and then it will generate an HTML and respond back to the client. That's normal process of web server. It's just like other technology like PHP, uh, just the same, but it using Java language. So here's some terminology that we use in the web and also in servlet. So website, we call it static website or dynamic website. So you already know that static website, like we design using HTML, CSS, that is static. But if the content change dynamically, it becomes dynamic website. HTTP, it is the common use of the web communication. It is a protocol, communication protocol for the web, a client server protocol. HTTP request, it is the request that sent from the client to the web server. It may be in the form of GET or POST. So if you already know about GET and POST, so I can pass to next. If you already learning PHP and like yes, PHP, HTML, I think yeah, it's already have. It's in the field of form or JavaScript, GET or POST. The same as Express.js also, if you already pass a lesson on Express.js. So I think GET POST is common. It's not something new. The same. Container, called servlet container. It is the one used for generating the dynamic content. Servlet container. It's just like in the PHP we use a pass, but in here Java we use a pass also, but a pass Tomcat. Tomcat is a web server and also a container. It's a servlet container. So container is the one that you can consider as uh, the server that handle the request. It is server application. Server application. It's just like WAM. It is a pass PHP, but this one a pass with Java. It's called a pass Tomcat. uh, Web and application. We have a server web, server application. Server web, the one that receive the HTTP request, and the server application, the one that run the application inside the server. And we can control running application and something other thing. We can install application and other a lot more. And we can also install the web server. It become web server. A content type. Content type. If you already pass a lesson on Express.js, you already know. A content type, for example, a JSON is one of the content type. Text slash HTML is content type. JavaScript is another content type. XML also. So there's a lot like a stream image. It has a different content type. So content type is the type of the content that respond from server. So it can be HTML content, it can be text content, plain text content, it can be image content, it can be video content. There's a lot of other. So before we can start coding on servlet, we study a bit on servlet API that has built-in interface and classes to help us start quickly using the servlet. So we have two package, servlet and HTTP. Servlet.http. So the servlet is for a web container used by servlet or web container. It's not specific on any protocol, but this one is specific on the HTTP only. Here's some interfaces of servlet and class of servlet API. So we have servlet request response. We have servlet that used for creating the endpoint. Used for creating endpoint, like endpoint or some part. For example, we have HTTP something like a call for, but it's not the one that I want to mention. It's the part here. It's servlet that we select. For example, slash welcome. So we can create multiple servlet to handle request different part. Servlet request and servlet response it represent the request and response, just like other web application. So when there is some request, we receive all those requests from in this object, and we can respond back as HTML by servlet response object. We have request dispatcher for dispatching the request here, and servlet config to config like some filter. There's a lot of things that in the servlet config. Servlet context, we will talk about it later. Single thread model. So it's just like one object that so many other requests. The filter that will filter requests. Some requests that we don't want to answer. Some requests that is not allowed. We are able to reject the request. And there's some other listener like request listener, attribute listener. There's those listener are using for adding functionality or to adding the security on request. It's also here, and it's also have the class for HTTP. So it's specifically for the HTTP request and response, HTTP servlet. So as you can see, it has also the specific class like cookie, like session. So it has cookie and session that handle the cookie and session. So I suppose that you already know about cookie and session. If you already passed the lesson on PHP, I think you already know, right? Have you already learning about session and cookie?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, good. So I don't need to explain what is cookie and session. Servlet interface is used for the one that receive all the requests. Any protocol is not just for HTTP protocol. It's maybe FTP, it may be RTP. There's a lot of protocol. But in my example, I will give only the HTTP because it's the most common one that you already passed some other lesson before this course. So we have three lines I call. First one is the initialization of servlet. Second one is the service that provide of the request. We will respond back to the request, and then the last one is the destroy of servlet. First initialize, second accept request, third destroy. So initialize, it means that we start this endpoint. So I talk about endpoint. It may be something that hard to understand for the first one. So I will draw something. So after slash is the path. So path here we call endpoint, or we can call the request path. So in the web, we have protocol like HTTP. This one is protocol. And this part is host, like some name, or we can say just localhost. Very commonly used for developer. And we may have a port like 8080. Maybe you familiar with 3000 or something, but in Tomcat mostly it's 8080. But if you use Node or Express.js, it's mostly like 3000 or 5000. And this part is called the part that what can I call it? I said it is endpoint, but we have another name. It is request part. Request part. Request part. So some part and other name like welcome or other thing. It has a lot other, but for example, it's welcome. So this part is responsible by which servlet. So that servlet is started when the server start, and it will destroy when the server is shut down. So it handled by one servlet, the service here. So we just need to know a little bit about some common method of servlet. So just like in the life cycle of the servlet, we first is initialization, and secondly is a service, the third is destroy. So the first is init, and then service, and the last one is destroy. And the other thing is just for configuration and get information about servlet. So I explain again. Init when the server start, destroy when the server shut down, and in working is during the server is running. Service here. So when there's one request, the service will be called. So each every request. So it's here. It's running from the first start of the server and then the shutdown of the server. But here it may be loop forever. Wait for the request from the customer, from the user. So when user browse on that path, it will call this method. So I will show the example later. So in the example, we will use a path Tomcat and Eclipse for Java Enterprise Edition. Maybe you need to have Java at least 11 or more than that, because it support maybe 11 up. So firstly, you need to download the Apache Tomcat for running as server, just like Apache PHP, just like Node.js, Express.js. So we need to install first Apache Tomcat for Java. So we provide you the link to download. I see. Easy to find. Maybe you don't need to install the service. You just download the zip file. So I will need to speak it into Java EE. Yeah. So you speak to Java EE perspective. Some of you may not see the Java EE perspective. You can click on this icon, and then you find the Java EE. Java EE. Yeah. So in Java EE, it will help you faster to create project. But now I will close this one first. I don't want it to bother anything about our project. So we have the dynamic web project. We have static web project. If we use a dynamic web project, we will create something that already built by Java. So we can first start by creating just a normal file without using Eclipse. It's also possible, just like here, just one CSV file, that's all. We may just create a servlet. But if you use the built-in one, it's already have a lot of configuration that help us to start quickly. So we can name it my web JSP. It is a project name. It's also the sub part of the server. So target runtime is represent the Tomcat or web server that is currently installed in this server. But currently we don't have Tomcat, so it will show none. So we may new So it has a lot to choose. So those are the server, but I used to use just like resin. Another I forgot. Resin maybe no. Yes. It's also another is called Jetty, but it's not in here. So the latest one of Tomcat is version 10. So we can choose a Apache Tomcat version 10. If we want to create just new locale, it will download the Apache Tomcat 10. But if you download Apache Tomcat externally, you maybe don't need to do that. So it will choose here. I will try this one. See a similar one. Yeah. So we can name it a custom cat v10, and we need to find the installation directory or just download. So I will choose to download. So we need to put somewhere like okay, outside here. We put okay. So a Z or E, we may select latest one, 17. So we got a custom cat 10, and dynamic web module we select the latest one. We don't have custom configuration. We don't have work set. Something that I already have. And the full class part, I think it's okay. Okay. It will build here and put in the build class. So we may able to change this to the default part is not in here. It's not in here, but now we suppose that it will in here. Contact root is the root part of the server. Just like we call a localhost 8080 slash my web servlet. So contact root is the root part of our server. The current directory is okay. We can generate the web.aml. It's for configuration of the web server. Currently, we don't talk about this yet, but it just generate it for keeping in the server. So we click finish. So I believe it's not in this place. It should be in here. So the folder structure of the web application of Java, it will have web INF, the place where we config the web, and also the place where we can put the classes. The folder here is special for Java code only in here. And for putting the other pages like JSP page, we put outside this folder. So now we are going to work on this folder. So every class of Java will be put in classes folder. So I will create the folder name classes. So yeah. Okay. Classes is the folder that will store servlet. But it's not a servlet code. It is the build servlet. So we will store the source code outside. So here I will configure something more. Build path, configure build path. So output directory, I will change output directory into it's not build, it is it's in there. I need brown, it's better. So main web classes. It is better to put it in here. Apply and close. So now we have all set up now. About the error here, it is because yes, it's okay. After we will be it's going to be gone. So now we going to create the first servlet. So create the first servlet, we will create in this folder. So we may create a package first. We create a package for keeping our servlet better. But we may create just a new servlet here. So we put the package, the class name, and superclass is HTTP servlet. So if you follow the documentation in here, you will see all the part that I mentioned previously. So I will move through the yes, this already started server, but I don't want to do that. It will we will talk here. So you can see the project that we have created is correctly now, but some of you that is not yet configured the build path, you need to configure build path to put the output directory into classes folder. That is the code for servlet. So we'll name it as first. And I don't put also the package, so we don't have. So we put only the name first. And I do a new name. So it's also implement servlet. It's not HTTP servlet. Because HTTP servlet is specifically for HTTP protocol, so it may have something like get and post, do get, do post, but I don't want to talk about do get, do post now, so I put on the java.servlet.servlet just yeah. Class does not exist. Java servlet. So, so, so doesn't find the name of Java servlet. What? There might be something missing in here. So I just can say I add not more class only. Colors first. Just not more class now. I will add the Eastern later. So it doesn't have, it will not have. Uh, yes. So I need to add dependency servlet API. Mm, so I need to configure mobile part. I need to add library servlet API. Yeah, it doesn't have. Yeah, it has servlet API. So now I'm going to build a project first. It does not download the Tomcat. So I see the server. Okay, the server is started at 8080, yes. 9 minutes. So it showed that the parts not found, but it told us that it is a bottom cat. It's okay. So now, so the server worked fine. So we stop server and publish. Yes, as remove. Yeah, I will add it to the server. My web servlet. So the path is my web servlet. Okay, it's still not low. Right. See, let's see. Okay, so we need to add, but we already add this one. Yes, it changed. Yes, it changed. It's Jakarta.servlet. Yes. Okay. So it does not have the servlet directly. We have only the HTTP servlet here. So we can. So there's something changed. So it may be removed or what, I don't know. I will check the document if the new version is remove the it has removed the servlet class. Oh, let me see this. It's called generic servlet. It's generic servlet. So I need to update this document also. Has it has a generic servlet, but this one is gone. It's gone now. So only the generic servlet is also is possible now. But it is in the phase. I forgot that. So it's not extend, it's implement. I forgot that. Yes. but that it is interface is not the class. Yes, it has all that, but okay. So it still not work for here. After we change this, we need to republish the server, but it will automatic build for us. If it is not, we need to rebuild it. But it's still not working yet. And after we create this class, we need to change this. It is just to build without using the Eclipse. But now we have Eclipse, so we don't need this step anymore. We don't need this step also. Uh, the three page here is just for the one that build without using Eclipse, but we are using Eclipse, so we will pass this step. We will skip this step also. Yeah, we will skip also this. Here is what we going to configure the servlet. So servlet we can have any name, like my first servlet, and the class must be the same as class name. It must be exist in the class folder here. And the servlet mapping is the one that is special for mapping the path of request path into servlet. For example, we have a slash welcome. It will process into servlet, my first servlet. So here we will need to change the same. Yes. Yeah. Nothing hay sao? Servlet is so servlet name and URL pattern. So it should restart or something, but it does not restart. And let's see if it works. It's still not works. So we need to restart, I believe. Okay. Okay, now it worked. After this, I don't know why it was red. It may have other version. So in it, we need to display something if we want to know if servlet is initialized. So I will display my servlet is. So I'm going to restart it to see the display here. So we are seeking if the message is in somewhere. Doesn't display. Okay, so we try to browse. Yeah, my servlet is initialized. And service. Wait, there's also a destroy, yes. I just to display this to. So we don't see the destroy, but we see the initialize. So we will start the code from returning something to display to the user. It's not just blank like that. So we are going to respond something. So I change this first. It's called request, and this one is so respond dot try. Very simple one. So it's reloaded. So we can. So welcome to my servlet. So it is your first servlet, but normally when we mix up the code in Java with the code of HTML, it feel like messy, right? So normally we use the servlet for some special case, like handling the security and some other stuff. but we don't use plainly servlet. We will use something that is called a better one. It's called a JSP, Java Server Page, that we are going to move to the next lesson uh, on this course. So we don't write directly the servlet. We will write JSP instead. So I will connect it with the next lesson. It's on JSP. I think so, so we run and we also. So this one is just to build and run on Eclipse, but I already done it. So I don't do too much thing on that. So it finished that. So we will move on to the next lesson. Is on the Java server page. The same project, but we write JSP instead. JSP is just the something that is improvement of servlet. Because servlet we write the code Java, but we respond HTML. So we merge code Java with the HTML code, just like something I wrote in the project. So it's not good that we reply like that, because here is code Java, and in code Java there is a string that is code HTML. So it's mixed up between design and the controller. This one is controller and this one is design. So we mix up like that is not good for uh, extensible and scalable of the application, and it's hard to design also. So we move on to JSP that is better than just servlet. So JSP allow us to write code HTML directly in one file, and it will automatically translate JSP into Java file. It's called servlet. So it will convert JSP file, Java server page, into servlet. But we don't need to write servlet directly, just like what I did previously. So this one is work is done by the container. So we don't need to do any extra work. So what we need to do is just to write JSP, that's all. So I'll move on to the how to write the JSP code. So there's some syntax on that, like just like a normal HTML, but we put extension as JSP, extension JSP. And where we need to write that. So here is where we write. It's not in the web INF, it's inside here. So we can create JSP file here. So we put it in index.jsp. Index.jsp is the starting of the application. So I will disable this guy. So I will change it to slash my servlet, so that is not bother with the index.jsp. So after I save this and wait it to restart first. Yeah, I see. So this time we don't see the content because it used this page. It is the index page. That means it is the home page just like that. So I can see insert content title here. So here's the title, insert title. And yes, I can put it welcome to this. So I just refresh it. I can see, oh no, and save it. I should let it to auto save. So now I can see welcome to JSP. So just like before, we can put A1. It's not more HTML, so we can't try anything. I forgot to say. Welcome. It's just a bit. And we can write just not more HTML, but we also can write the script just like PHP and EJS. Maybe you use EJS for Node and Express.js. But in Java we use JSP and JSTL. JSTL is a Java server page template library, something like that. It's just the same as we use PHP. We can put this and PHP and blah blah blah, right? But in here we don't use this sign. We use this instead. So it's the code to write Java. So Java code inside this block. And we can display. So this one is built-in variable, built-in object. So there's some other built-in object for displaying the content. So we can out dot. That is java.util, java. What? Ah, okay, it's semicolon. Sorry. Okay, so we can see the date, current date. Yeah. At the second. So every time we visit the page, we will get the latest date. And I believe there's something wrong here, but it may be the problem of cyclic. Yes, the problem of cyclic. So Eclipse has a problem, so I need to. Okay. It's not a problem of code, it's a problem of IDE. It's not the code problem. Yes, it's stuck now. So, so we can write the code Java mixed up with HTML, but we don't. If we don't want to write Java code, we can write just normal HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But to make it dynamic, you need to include this, just like what we see here. So the date is updated every time. We write just like a normal HTML. We can include the bootstrap, include the JavaScript HTML as JavaScript like a bootstrap, I think. So I'm going to download it. So put in by can include CSS. As it become now become the bootstrap. So we can make a lot of more change. So you can see here. So there's a lot more we can do on this. It's a lot than just writing the servlet. So normally we use JSP, but there's a lot other library that help on this. So we will focus on the JSTL first. So the syntax of writing, there is three syntax of writing this. So this one is just to declare that the code in here is the Java code. We call it scriptlet. So we go back to the documentation. We call that as a scriptlet tag. This one that we use currently. So we can add this called expression tag. It's just like what we wrote in the PHP. If you already learned PHP, so you can see this. Used to do that. It is what did by PHP, but it is the same for Java. So it means that you are displaying something inside here. It's called expression. So you give an expression, for example, new date here. You want to display, you don't need to out the print. You just equal like this. So it become new date. So I make it like P. You can see the same result. So it's shorter than writing this. So you don't need out of the print. You just put equal. That's all. Chẳng lại nếu dưng còn tại ដាក់សញ្ញាស្មើទៅយើងមិនបាច់ចាំ out.print ទេសញ្ញាស្មើហ្នឹងគឺស្មើនឹង display ហ្នឹងហើយណាស្មើនឹង out.print ហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងវា shorten ជាងណាខ្លីជាងតោះនេះមិនទៅគ្នាយើងតោះអត់ Hello can you catch up now you understand now hello so maybe I remove this it doesn't understand the JSP tag yes it keep telling like this send so we have the declaration tag it used for declaring like measure, declaring like variable and other stuff. It's most likely the declaration. So we put like design for declaration. So I want to declare a variable or a function. It's depend on what you want here. So that and then I just print it. You can see it's equal to 5. Okay. And you can use for declaring the function. So I don't hear you. You talk first. I don't hear anything. You guys are listening or not? There's something not right. Hello. Okay,
Yes, teacher.
I can hear. So everyone, are you able to catch up or not? Hello, can you catch up now?
Yes, yes, teacher.
Okay. So maybe I will have some work for it's better because I think we should stop here because everyone seems to be very silent. So I just saw some keyword that used in the JSP code, JSP page. But we have already seen is there is out. Out is for display into screen into the web page. A request is to get something from the request. Like we submit the form, we can get the submitted form, submitted data from request. And respond, we may change the response or redirect to somewhere else. You can use it for redirecting to other page, like redirect into unauthorized page or 404, something like that. Config for getting the configuration of the servlet. We will talk about servlet config later. Application is the servlet context that we can store data across the application. So it's not like in PHP. This guy is very useful. We may be able to store data that across multiple uh, page and also uh, store it a very long time, I think, until the server is shut down. So it's not like a session. It's not like session. Session, it can store data for a period of time. If you don't do anything, it will be automatically erased. But application will not. The data you store in application will stay until you shut down the server. So data in application is very long term, you can say. It never be erased until you shut down the server or restart the server. So normally we store only special data like counting the number of user accessing. So we can count the user by putting variable into the application context here. If you just want to save just for one user or just for one session, you can use session predefined object. But you want to put data that across all user, all session, you can put in application. If you want to store data just one page, you can use page context or page. It is the same, I think, same tool. Exception, it exists unless your page has error or your page is an error page. If your page is not error or is not error page, you can get this exception. So it's special for handling error only. So normally we have this object, but this object will be null when there is no error. So to handle across pages, you use a request. And for example, this one, I will tell you how to use this or this. Okay, I will tell you this. You can. So maybe now I'm going to write something into session. So there is called a session. So session is a predefined object. So you can get or set value. For example, set the attribute and condition. Get attribute. Refresh count. If it is null, you will put the set and something like that. L. So you can get value. Duplicated. Get attribute, yes. So you need to convert it into int first. I will count it up by 1. So bar plus 1. So every time you refresh, it will display the new value. So now I will display the value. Um, yes. um, that is. So as you can see, it is 1, and then I make it bigger. So it's 2, and as long as you refresh, it will count up. because you store it in session. But there's one problem. What if you try to open it in incognito window? So it will restart from one because it's not the same session. It is different session. So it will restart. So if you don't want it to restart, you want to count all the user who access to the website, you put it in application instead. It's not in the session. So now I'm going to show the similar thing on this tool. I'm going to use application instead. It's not application, it's not session, it's so we just change like this. It's one. So yes, this one also. It's all application, yes. So I will show it is refresh counter the same, but it has something different. It's counter. So it's the same syntax, just change the object name. Yeah. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But something interesting is that if I try to add a new incognito window, I copy past this. And as you can see, this one is restarted, but this one continue. And say, if you refresh here, 10 and 8, and come back here, you see it's 9. Yeah, it's 3. 13. So the application, it stored the whole application. So any page in this application, the same data, they will store the same data. That's why the application content is not that you use too much variable on that, it will heavy on the server. So normally we store only data that very critical data, or we can reuse very commonly used data. So I see it is enough for today. So we are going to do a small practice. So I need someone going to show me the screen so that I can check whether you follow all what I have done from the start. So you need to build an application, something like this in the yes. So it has an example in Bootstrap, maybe I choose something very easy to use. Yes, this one. No, not model. It's maybe login form. Yes, this one. It's easy. Yes, one. So you need to create a JSP page that display this. You can change logo to anything you want, and just the same, you can copy paste this example. You can just copy paste that. You can download the page. You can download the page example, and then you put it, just rename it into JSP. Okay, I will. Okay, give you 10 minutes to do. Do you understand what I want you to do?
Thưa về ca dễ sợ thơ mình.
Yeah. យើង download អា page sign in ហ្នឹងទៅហើយបន្ទាប់មកយើង rename វាទៅ extension JSP ណាហើយដាក់នៅក្នុង server Tomcat របស់យើងទៅដើម្បី display page ហ្នឹងនៅក្នុង local យើង So what you need to do is just to download the page I given in the link in chat, and then you rename the downloaded file into a JSP file, and then put in local server, Tomcat local server, and browse it. Okay. So I see some of you maybe not understand. Okay, so I will write down. Okay, it is the task that we need that you going to do after class. So first you create the web project that I have shown you in the presentation. You create that project using Eclipse, and then you add a JSP page that's called a sign in page. That design is follow the bootstrap example. You can just download and rename just like what I told you. And then you create another page called welcome that is going to display welcome username. The username is submitted by from the sign in page. So that's all for this session now. So do you have any question? Do you have any question?
No, teacher.
Okay, so we can finish here today. Okay, have a nice day. Have a nice weekend. Okay, bye bye.
Teacher.